At the time of this recording, the world has been shocked and horrified at the terrorist stroke hate attacks against Muslim worshippers in mosques in the city of Christchurch, New Zealand. 50 people are now dead and many are injured following a coordinated murderous attack on the Friday. Wasim al-Sati, a father of two, who moved from the country of Jordan, was one of those who was injured in the attack. He had stated on a Facebook post a few months prior, "One of the major reasons that I have decided to live in New Zealand is that they don't care who you are. They just treat you as a human being and you're allowed to be whatever you want." Now, one of the alleged attackers, in an attempt to justify and rationalize his evil actions, he dehumanized the Muslim worshippers he shot and killed, calling them invaders. The Gospel of Luke records an incident which highlights the fact that even when in possession of a faith and belief in God, we are prone still to dehumanize and label people groups. In Luke chapter 9, verses 52 through 56, an event is recorded which in the authorized version reads as follows. "And Jesus sent messengers before his face, and they went and entered into a village of the Samaritans to make ready for him. And they did not receive him, because his face was as though he would go to Jerusalem. And when his disciples, James and John, saw this, they said, 'Lord, wilt thou that we command fire to come down from heaven and consume them, even as Elias did?' But he turned and rebuked them and said, 'Ye know not what manner of spirit ye are of. For the Son of Man is not come to destroy men's lives, but to save them.'" Now, a bit of context. The Samaritans were a mixed people. They were partly of Hebrew stock, partly of foreign blood, and they formed after the fall of the northern kingdom of Israel at the hands of the Assyrians, circa 722 BC. The Samaritans worshipped the same God as the Jews, namely Yahweh. They treasured the same holy books, namely the Pentateuch. Yet despite the closeness of the Israelites and the Samaritans by way of heritage and religion, the two peoples avoided each other at best, and at worst, they detested each other. But Luke records that Jesus purposefully decided to make his journey to Jerusalem through Samaria. Jews commonly bypass Samaria because of the strong racial prejudice that existed between the Samaritans and the Jews. Jesus was not ignorant of this fact. In fact, I believe it was because he knew about this that he sent messengers on ahead into Samaria to find hospitality and accommodation. But the Samaritans did not want Jesus nor his disciples in their territory. The disciples were insulted, and James and John, two of the three disciples, remember, that had witnessed Jesus being transfigured in the mountain earlier in Luke chapter 9, they were incensed that the Samaritans refused to extend hospitality to the Lord. So their solution? Kill them all. Righteous indignation simply oozed through them. They requested the Lord's permission to call fire down from heaven on the Samaritans as Elijah had once done. But in reality, they were motivated by a rather thinly veiled racial and cultural prejudice. The sad thing is that the disciples' motivation for wanting to send down holy fire to destroy the Samaritans was the same reason the Samaritans had for refusing to welcome Jesus, namely prejudice and racism. So what might Jesus have been trying to teach us by entering into that unnamed Samaritan village? Well, one lesson as we focus on refugees, one lesson I would like to focus upon is this. We must take the courageous step of venturing into another people's village to extend the hand of friendship. We must go out of our way to extend the hand of friendship and cordiality to all people, especially people who are not like us. You see, for Jesus Christ, every person is valuable. Ironically, Luke records that the Samaritans rejected Jesus' approach because he was headed towards Jerusalem. Jerusalem, we might note, was regarded by the Samaritans as the arch enemy city. But Jesus was not making his way to Jerusalem because he believed it was a better city than any other city or town in Samaria. Neither was Jesus headed to Jerusalem for a vacation. Rather, he was headed to Jerusalem to die. Jesus was going to Jerusalem to die for every Samaritan and Jew, every black, every white person, for people from the north, the south, the east, the west. He was going to Jerusalem to die for people of every language, tribe, and culture. He was headed to Jerusalem to die for every man, woman, and child upon planet Earth, because everyone is valuable in the eyes of Christ. I hope that you would be able to join with me in praying that God would grant us the eyes and the heart of Jesus that sees the value and worth in all people. People that Jesus came to this earth in his attempt to save. We, as followers of Christ, must be like him, and we must act like him.